I'm never going to remember that kind of point. Anyway. But at the very least for the channel, I don't have to redo Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and, well, Violet, pretty much. Or Scarlet, because those ones are already done. But I do want to mention this because it is something that, well, kind of needs to be mentioned. Because it kind of affects the channel in a way. So when we do Pokemon Sword and Shield, technically one or the other, it doesn't have to be both. Or both of them, I don't know. So when we have to deal with that, we do not have to do the Crown Tundra DLC. Or the Star Tournament, I think. The Galarian Star Tournament or something like that. Now, I want to tell you guys why we don't have to deal with those two in particular. The reason why we don't have to deal with those two in particular is because we already have Crown Tundra already on the channel. The only thing I have to worry about for Pokemon Sword and Shield, or Sword or Shield, depending on whichever one I want to do, is just the normal game and the Isle of Armor. That's all I have to do. I don't have to do anything else. Just those two. I'm going to use Ember. But I also don't have to do Pokemon Legends Arceus because we already have 100 or so videos of that, so. Unless they decide to throw in more DLC, but other than that, nothing. But then again, I'm trying to think though, do I want to do Shining Pearl? I didn't like them. I mean, just for the continuity kind of thing, yeah, maybe I'll do Shining Pearl just to say like, hey, look, we did all the Pokemon games. Yay! And we mostly did them in order. Mind you, the only reason why they wouldn't be in order is because a new game came out, and that one needs to take center stage. So since we only have about 10 minutes left, I might as well talk about new plans that I have for, well, my mod for Oblivion, while there's nothing really too much to talk about. So one thing that I want to do is I want to expand the area. Now, I do want to mention one thing before we go a little bit too off topic to what I want. So, the one thing that I want to mention is that I wanted to have two versions of my mod. Mind you, there already is two versions, technically three, but eh. But I mean by the place in which that we go to. So, one would be the lodge, of course, and then the other one would be a castle. Now, the castle is supposed to be a representation of what would happen if Artemis actually won the internal struggle between him and Drathis. He would have changed the entire sort of the heart realm, pretty much. So he can construct a castle in his great will, pretty much, and the castle in which that he would have been able to build or put in his image or whatever you want to kind of word it as would have been the Anvil Castle. And one of the and one of the cool features that I was going to do was that I was going to add the 2 DLC areas as extra locations for the Anvil Castle. That would have been the one DLC that already sort of interacts with the Anvil Castle, which is the Dunbarrow Cave, or pretty much what I like to call the hideout, because that's what I would have named it in the next, or not the Nexus, the construction set. And the other place was going to be Deep Scorn Hollow, I think. I don't remember how the cave is actually pronounced, but pretty much it's the evil lair, pretty much. Which would have been a very cool sort of area in which that I would have very much loved to have put in. The only problem is that the one part that was actually a big problem was the castle. The castle was too big for the island that the lodge is on. So one thing that I thought of was, hey, there's a shortcut to resize a lot of objects all at once. So hopefully it'll keep the same shape, but it will resize it. That's not how it works. What it does instead is that it takes the item where it currently is positioned and changes the size. You know how that helps me? It doesn't. It means that this rock that's at 000 will remain at 000, but it'll change shape. Like, it'll change the size of it. Instead of changing the size and then going, oh no, it's not like how it should be. It should be at 001 or something like that. Because that's what it looks like it's at or something like that. Nope. So I have to do the entire island by scratch all over again, or just make an entirely different island specifically for the castle. Now, the Anvil Castle I grabbed was from Open Cities. Now, there is a version of Open Cities that I found called Open Cities Reborn. It's not on the Nexus, as unfortunate as it is, because I was unable to find Open Cities and Open Cities Reborn on the Nexus. So I had to sort of dig around a little bit to find the original sort of thing, and I found Reborn instead. So I grabbed that, and I looked at I looked at every castle, by the way. And I gotta say though, Anvil and Skingrad more. Skingrad looked amazing in comparison. The only thing that I didn't like about Skingrad was the fact that the roof looks so bad. But everything else about the Skingrad castle looked amazing. And there's another mod in which that I have that's supposed to further improve the castles. So I'm thinking of going through that mod as well when I get time this weekend, in order to just go through it and seeing if I like that Anvil Castle as well. Now, while I would have loved to do the castle, and while I'm still going to keep it, I don't think I want to work on it nearly as much as I do with the lodge. I want to keep the lodge. However, there are some few things that I want to mention. One is that I'm thinking of still keeping the hideout and the lodge, or not the hideout and the lodge, the hideout and the lair, pretty much, the Dunbarrow Cave and the Deep Scorn Hollow location. I want to have them still. I guess I could put them still in the lodge. The only thing is that it's not accurate, if that makes sense. So when Archimus takes full control over the heart, pretty much, he's evil. He obviously wants the castle over a little house. So obviously he's gonna try and enslave people to build him a castle. And it makes sense that he would have an evil lair. However, for for Drathis and the Lodge, it doesn't make much sense. Because Drathis, to be fair, I want to explain this in better detail, so though just in case anybody thinks that Drathis is evil, you're not wrong, but you're also not entirely correct. So what I mean is that while you could say, though, that anybody who uses, like, dark or evil magic is considered evil, again, you are correct. However, Drathis is not evil. He's just using evil powers to do good. Again, he's using an evil force known as the Dark King's Heart, and is using it to save people's lives. I don't consider that evil. I consider that a good act. But is he using evil weapons and armor and all that stuff to do it? Of course. Gotta fight fire with fire kind of situation. So, you know, it makes sense. But again, in the lore of the Dark King's Heart / Drathis and Archimus would never have had enough influence over the heart's sort of geography of the island enough to be able to create the lair. Or technically the hideout, but that's beside the point. I don't think the hideout is more of the issue. It's the lair that's more of the issue of what I don't want. But then again, the hideout also doesn't make much sense either, but it makes more sense for me to put the like if I had to pick one or the other, the hideout over the lair makes more sense. But again, between the two, the lair doesn't make much sense because again, Drathis isn't evil. He just uses evil items to do good. So it's kind of weird. However, for the hideout would be a pretty interesting thing. And no, there's not going to be any NPCs. However, there is something I do want to add to either the hideout or the lair, depending on whichever one I pick, is a replica of the Anvil Castle that I was going to use. Again, this comes into the same point that I came across about the castle. But not only the castle, but if you remember, I think I talked about it I think the title of the video is New Update. I don't remember the part number off the top of my head. It might be like 126 or 127, I think, or something like that. Or no, 300 something. Give me a second. It's probably 300 and something. What is it called? Where is it? Maybe it was like 302 or something. I remember reading it, and I remember that I was getting a bunch of views on that, and I was confused by that. Okay, now I'm just going to search up for update. 319, that's what it was. So at 319, I probably said it there. Maybe it was episode 320, not quite sure. But I said how hard it was for the Stalrus Manor to be perfect in that little area. And that's 2 pieces. That's 2 pieces. That's the manor itself and that small little thing on the side. That's all it is. The castle, you have the walls, you have the castle itself, and you have the balcony on the back you have to worry about. And you have to worry about the towers. And you have to worry... There's so many things you have to worry about. Plus, again, the same idea with how the island couldn't be redone kind of thing. As easy as it was that I was thinking that it could be done, you gotta think of it in the same way of the castle too. So those walls are gonna stay in the same spot but change size. They're gonna stay in the same location but change size, which means I would have to go in after the fact and change the size and where they are located, so that way it fits. And that's not fun. So I don't know if I want to do the castle thing. I might just put that as a side project. Or I'll do it in stages or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Alright, so that's going to be it. For now. As I said, I apologize for the fact that it's not going to be as long as the other two ones were. However, I mean, getting up to Gym 2 is pretty darn good. So, when we come back, it'll be a longer session, don't worry. It'll be 8 or whatever it's supposed to be. And everything else will be done. So yeah, so I'll see you guys next time for some more Pokemon Crystal.